Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Rise of Kyoshi chapter analysis. This one is going to be for chapter 20, which is called The Avatar's Masters. And this one's there's much more to this chapter than the last one. It's not overly long. Basic idea here is, of course, Kyoshi finally decides to reveal to the Flying Opera Company that she is the Avatar and who the person that she's trying to take out is. So she has to reveal about Jianzhu, as well as the fact that she's the Avatar. Will they believe her or not? Because she can't just bend the other elements at will, so there is a little bit of a element of how they're going to do that at play. We're going to see that the Flying Opera Company are actually pretty reverent towards the Avatar themselves and are kind of like, willing to basically just kind of let Kyoshi go as the Avatar. They don't want to sort of, they too, like kind of Rangi in a way, don't want to sort of sully the Avatar's reputation by having the Avatar hang around with them. But we see Kyoshi wants to. She is now devoted to this group. She's a part of it. She cares about these people. She wants them to train her. And then the end of the chapter pretty much is an interesting scene with Lao Ji as part of the sort of assassination or teaching Kyoshi how to kill training. But let's get into specifics here. So, first thing she reveals is, of course, that the person she's feuding with, she's told them about this before, but that the person is Jianzhu. So Lao Ji calls him the architect specifically, which I think is interesting. He says, "You aim high, my dear, I'm impressed." Everyone else calls him the gravedigger. Now, that's an interesting one because the architect is also what Father Glowworm, the spirit from that chapter, called him. Now Lao Ji, who's going to be revealed to be a very old character, also calls him that. Everyone else knows him by the more modern title of the gravedigger. I still wonder in a way like the specifics of the architect, what that title is about, but still, it's pretty interesting. Kirima's reaction is quite interesting. "Oh no, we believe that. We can believe that plenty. That man has a higher body count than Septipox." Now, when I first read this, it's obviously like a disease in the Avatar world. I'm like, okay, this is clearly some sort of a reference to Pentapox. Now, Pentapox obviously was a made-up disease that they used to get out of that situation back in Book 2. And in a way, I feel that my first reaction was actually like, that's a little on the nose, just, Pentapox, Septipox, just changing the sort of number to it. But actually, it helps to complete the joke, because if you remember back to it, the reaction everyone had was like, it's a made-up disease, was actually, oh, I think I've heard of that, I think someone had that. If this is meant to do that, and just complete the joke, that this is what most people think that they heard, that this is the actual thing that they probably did hear about, someone had Septipox, but this is Pentapox that we're being talked about. So it's an interesting one. Either way, it's a disease we now know about in the Avatar world, and it might help to finish off that joke. So either way, pretty interesting. And yeah, this is where she eventually gets around to, he's not trying to kill me, he doesn't want me dead, because I'm the Avatar. And it's a pretty interesting moment here because Kyoshi reflects on the fact that her saying those words, "I'm the Avatar," is her first time saying those words out loud. It's her first time having to really say that to herself and it not just be I'm the Avatar because I was told I'm the Avatar. She actually has to use that to tell other people. And, Rangi obviously knows about it, but the others don't. And we see that they just basically burst out laughing. They don't believe her at all. Rangi tries to, step in and be like, "Why do you think she has a bodyguard with her?" But they're all like, who cares? We have a waterbender in our group. Does it really matter if you have a kind of opposite element kind of bender with you? They immediately ask her, do you even bend all four elements? And she's like, "Oh, I firebent one." So like her evidence isn't really like proving all that much. Lao Ji is like, "Well, I believe her," and we obviously know he knows already that she's the Avatar, but he's not the type of character to just come in and be like, "I'm sure she is." He just kind of stays in the background and lets it all play out. Kirima is the one who sort of solves the problem here. Okay, Kirima said, "Everyone calm down, take a breather. Let's consider this rationally for a minute, assuming she is the Kyoshi, think fast." And it says here, she uncorked her water skin with a sleight of hand. A pellet of liquid flew at Kyoshi's face. And Kyoshi basically reflexively draws her fan. and uses that to waterbend the drop of water that's been thrown at her. And she actually proves to everyone that she is a waterbender in this moment, which confirms she's the Avatar. So everyone goes from laughing that, oh, you can't possibly be the Avatar, to being shocked that she actually is. Lex specifically says, spirits above. Rangi sort of jumps on Kyoshi and embraces her, which is a pretty nice moment. And yeah, everyone else was shocked into submission, but Lao Ji had a cool, knowing expression. So that's a nice moment. It is the sort of Milo technique for finding out if someone's is a bender. Obviously, when Boomy revealed that, oh, I'm an airbender now, and he couldn't do it on command, Milo throwing something at him was what confirmed it, and we get that sort of coming back here. But the more interesting thing, the big reveal actually here, is this. She stared at the fan in her hand. Her mother's weapon had made the difference somehow, in both the element and the amount. She was sure of it. So Kyoshi bending through the fan is now going to be revealed to be to allow her to focus her bending to do the smaller bending. So it's going to be this kind of accessory for her to limit her bending, but allow her to do stuff that other people can do. So that's very, very interesting. What happens here next is also of note, because the group basically lands at this point, and the reaction from the group is kind of unexpected, in that they come back over and say, it's been an honor to travel with the Avatar, but we regret that we have to part ways. It doesn't have to be right now if that's not your wish. I suppose you might want the night to plan your next move and leave in the morning. You're the Avatar. You can't stay with people like us. It'd be offense to the spirits or something. So, this is where it is revealed that they know that it is a thing, that the Dao Fei are actually very respectful towards the Avatar. And they don't want to sully the Avatar's reputation, just like Rangi doesn't. But we'll see here that as they get through sort of an argument back and forth about this, Kyoshi is devoted to them now. So I really like that. She says, I'm not going anywhere, I'm staying, and if I can help with the Autumn Bloom, I will. I haven't got my end of the bargain yet. So she still wants her training, she still wants to help them get out from under Uncle Mock and get them to where they need to be. And she just points out that, look, no one really knows I'm the Avatar yet, so in terms of me being recognized, it's not really going to happen here. And that is the truth of the situation, is that they can hide Kyoshi as being the Avatar by just not having her bend multiple elements around people. They can still train her, but if she just sticks to one whenever they're actively doing something, they can hide her because she's not openly the Avatar to the world. And she says here, I took oaths of this group. I won't abandon my sworn brothers and sisters. And I like to hear the reaction from everyone that these words actually hit home. Her choice of words was not lost on them or Rangi. The firebender was torn between being critical of Kyoshi's judgment and being proud that she'd brought personal honor into the issue. Because previously she'd basically said, Kyoshi's own opinion on it was that her personal honor didn't mean anything, it had no value. But now we're seeing that she's sort of putting that above all else, of like, I made a promise, I committed to these oaths to the group. I'm putting me caring about you above a lot of other stuff. So that's interesting. At this point, they do point out that, like, Kyoshi, you're not ready for a fight. You're actually the biggest weakness in the group, and they have to point that out to her. But they're actually all sort of up for being her teacher, especially Kirima, I've always wanted to start, a waterbending lineage. I'm not going to pass up on the chance to go down in history as the Avatar's waterbending master. Rangi's a bit annoyed by this, that like this is how it's actually going to play out, because she of course comes from like a noble family of really powerful firebenders who've trained royalty in the past. It's explained here. So it's not this is this sort of dishonorable thing, and that like her training the Avatar makes sense, but like she's going to be doing that alongside Dao Fei waterbending master and stuff like that. They do point out that, of course, they don't have an airbender master around, but they're going to do what they can, because, Wong's an earthbender, Lao Ji's an earthbender, Lex an earthbender. She has earthbending masters covered. She has a firebender, which is the next one in the cycle, and then she has water. So, air is sort of skipped over for now, and that's kind of interesting given, so many of the people close to Kyoshi were airbenders and were potential people to teach her, but because they're gone, it's actually the one element she has no one in. So like her mother, if she was still alive, could have thought her airbending. Kelsan could have thought her airbending, but they're both gone now. So she went from having a lot to not having any airbending master, but she actually has masters in all the other elements. So that's pretty interesting. But yeah, this is when we get to the scene with Lao Ji here, and this is basically their pretty much first, lesson about killing. So he just notes that, killing's not some holy art that requires worldly abstinence. If anything, that's a lesson too. I suppose it's just Lao Ji acknowledging her relationship with Rangi, that she sort of kind of skipped out on an opportunity the night that she basically got together with Rangi to go to see Lao Ji, but he's like, that's fine, killing, it's not really linked as such. He says, lesson 2 should scare you to the bone. You can take a life before the sun comes up, eat breakfast, and go about your day. How many people might you pass on the street who are capable of such callousness? Many more than you think. She notes John Zhu certainly was. And yeah, he just asks you, do you fancy yourself different? I won't know until I try. I suppose you'll get the chance soon. In the heat of battle, you can excuse the act away well enough, fling an arrow here, hack away with a sword there. You and your victim are just two of many acting in self-preservation. Is that how you want to deal with your man, with chaos as your shroud? Do you want to shut your eyes, hurl an overwhelming amount of death in his direction, and hope he's disposed of when you open them? Kyoshi's response is no. I want to look him in the eye as I end him. That is an interesting approach, because it shows you, I suppose, what Lao Ji is trying to teach her here. He's not actually teaching her any earthbending or necessarily any techniques with bending on how to kill people. He's purely instructing her here on the mental side of this, about like, what is your attitude going into this? What way do you hope to accomplish this, and how do you justify your actions? That they're what he's kind of addressing here, in that he's sort of pointing out that, like, are you trying to become someone who can just go about your day, but like kill whenever? And does that how different is that going to make you than everyone else? He's also kind of pointing out that it's easy to kill, like in the middle of a battle, like just swords, arrows, bending. It can just happen, and you can excuse it because you're just trying to save yourself, and throw a big amount of death in their direction and hope that they're gone when you open your eyes. But no, Kyoshi wants it to be personal. She wants to assassinate him is basically the approach here. She doesn't want to know how to just how to kill people, but how to kill people in this exact way. In that she's basically getting training on how to, I suppose in a way, kill anyone, but what we're going to get here is, I suppose, the idea that she really does only want to kill John Zhu, and it is sort of out of an emotional kind of response, but she's trying to do it the right way. But Lao Ji's sort of going to have her questioning things here, and that he says, well, if that's the case, during the raid, you and I are going to split off from the others, we'll head farther into the palace than anyone else, and we're going to assassinate Governor Tay. So this is the guy who obviously runs this prison, and it's now apparently Lao Ji's next hit is to take out Governor Tay, and he's going to use Kyoshi on this mission as well. And he just says, for you it's practice, for me, he's my man. Listen, Governor Tay is brutally incompetent and corrupt. His people go hungry. He skims from the Earth King's taxes to enrich his own coffers. And in case you haven't noticed, he doesn't have a good policy for handling Dao Fei. Those aren't excuses to murder him. You're right, they're not excuses, but they're ample justifications. I guarantee you that many citizens have suffered immeasurably from his greed and negligence, and many more would die if he's allowed to keep breathing. Tay and his ilk are parasites leeching strength and vitality from the kingdom. Imagine yourself as the predator that keeps the land healthy by eliminating the sources of its weakness. It was said of Karuk that he was the greatest hunter that ever walked the four nations, but from what I know, he never made man his quarry. I'm hoping you can be different. Kyoshi asked the question, what gives you the right to decide? Are you part of another brotherhood? Are there more people like you? Is someone paying you? And he just says, doesn't everyone have the right to decide? Isn't the avatar a person like me, someone who shapes the world with their choices? I would declare the lowliest peasant is like the Avatar in this regard. All of our actions have an impact. Each decision we make ripples into the future, and we alter our landscapes according to our needs. To keep her crops alive, a farmer uproots the weeds that nature has placed in her fields, does she not? People aren't weeds. And yet she's pointing out, Jianzhu murdered 2 of my friends with his own hands. He doesn't deserve to get away with it. If you took him out for me instead of targeting some random governor, I could reveal myself as the Avatar. I'd be safe. And Lao Ji, this is the interesting thing here. Lao Ji's response to basically effectively being asked to kill Jianzhu for her. No one in this world is random. I don't care to kill Jianzhu. He's competent and he surrounds himself with competent people. I wish the Earth Kingdom had 100 Jianzhus. We'd enter a new golden age. And yet you're trying to stop me from ending him. For this case, I won't intervene one way or the other. Besides, what kind of teacher would I be if I took away my student's examination from her? A rich one is the question. So, he then leaves her with this. Many of Governor Tay's personal guards will die in Mok's raid. Soldiers who are simply doing their jobs. His servants will be caught in the violence as well. What will you do then, Avatar? And what's so interesting about this, I think, is basically what he's just left her with is like the idea of the way most people view these 2 people who are on the sort of to kill list. Governor Tay and Jianzhu. Most people probably do see Jianzhu in the same way that Lao Ji does, that he is someone who actually does really, really help the world. And the fact that we did just get a chapter not that long ago addressing that fact of him wanting to help the Southern Water Tribe even after everything that's happened, he still just wants to get the Avatar back and help bring balance to the world. That he is this person who, the world would probably benefit from him actually still being around. The only problem is this, rift that he has with Kyoshi, and Kyoshi obviously having a personal reason to kill him, which we're kind of on board with because we're following her story. But then he points out Governor Tay is like, you're defending this guy. You don't want to assassinate him because you don't know him. And the idea of just killing someone who you really aren't familiar with is kind of seemingly foreign to you, but very few people are going to, stand up for this guy. Look what he does to the nation. He just brings it down, has all of these problems, is not an effective ruler, actively hurts the people around him. Yet you're, not up for killing him. And I think the point that he's trying to make here is that for him, killing people is the same kind of regardless of who they are in a way. Of like, if he was actually tasked with killing Jianzhu, he would probably, go for it, and that there'd probably be some justification he could make, but that's the sort of approach. And he's basically sort of teaching her to have these sort of justifications, and in a way it is shaping what she's going to become as the Avatar later. And that I think, obviously Kyoshi is a little bit mischaracterized by a lot of fans, especially prior to this book, as being the Avatar who will just kill people. But you don't. Through this book, we basically learn where that sort of sense of justice really comes from. Why, in her opinion, even if it was just an accident, she was just willing to kill Chin if she absolutely had to. So I think that's what they're doing here, is just asking Kyoshi the question of just, you want to kill Jianzhu. I think a lot of people would disagree with that idea because Jianzhu actually helps people. Here's someone who doesn't, yet you want to defend them. What's that about, basically? And it's pointing out the idea of, like, she's training to be an assassin effectively here, yet she only wants to assassinate people that she personally dislikes. And she's not really thinking about the overall sort of justifications here. Whereas Lao Ji, I think the approach they're trying to have with him is that he is performing this sort of assassination role from sort of the perspective of, in a way, kind of trying to bring balance. And I think you are sort of getting the impression that, his influence is really going to be what very much defines her going forward, of like her kind of taking a similar role to him as things go forward, or at least how direct he is about it, maybe not going about it in the exact same way. But we'll see as the book goes on who Kyoshi kills and who she doesn't kill. I think that's the best way to describe it without spoiling it immediately. and her making a decision kind of based off what he's talking about here. And again, there'll be other Lao Ji scenes as we go forward here, but it's straight away, I think I really, really do like what is being talked about in this scene. It's definitely worth talking about here in terms of it isn't just the typical assassination lessons that you think about. He's asking her to really, really think about the right way to do things. But yeah. There's one final quick scene about that's basically just set up for the training that's about to happen. Is that Rangi's told everyone about Kyoshi's problem with bending and that she can only go big, she can't go small. Lek throws a stone at her, and this is where she tests her theory from before. As the stone is coming towards her, she takes one of the fans out and is actually able to bend this relatively small stone. She stops it, hurls it back at Lek and hits him on the head, and it's suddenly like, okay, training is going to go a lot smoother here. Now, it doesn't really solve, I think, the main issue with Kyoshi of that, like, she's still going to be reliant on the fans to go small, but it is going to help her gain that insight into earthbending, and she can use that for waterbending, and then we'll get explained, obviously, coming up just in the next chapter, actually, about Kyoshi and firebending. But that is it. Kyoshi agreed with her. The official training of the Avatar was off to a great start. So, yeah, I like this chapter. It's just, the reveal to the group. I like the group's reaction of actually surprising her and being very reverent towards the Avatar, wanting to let her go. They're willing to let her kind of basically go away from the oaths that she's made, just so the Avatar doesn't have to, lower themselves to this position. And they're being very respectful all of a sudden. But she's the one to actually be like, no, I want this. I'm part of this group now. I want you to train me, but I will help you as well. And it's this moment that I think really forms the loyalty with this group. And I think it is a moment that really brings them together. And it's, I think, another thing with like Lek especially, it kind of forms that sort of loyalty between the two of them as well. So I think that was very, very well done. Even some of the little bits at the start with her mentioning that it's John Zhu who's the person that she's after. And then, yeah, especially that Lao Ji scene, just, you're immediately like, wait, who is this guy? He's this, like, really old guy, he's an assassin, but he's really wise about these things, and now he's giving Kyoshi this kind of, really kind of, philosophical kind of training about, what does it mean to kill, and, like, the justifications for it, and that, anyone, regardless of their position, their actions are still going to have, like, a ripple effect, and just pointing out that this battle is going to involve people dying. What are you going to do about that? Are you going to accept that? Or are you going to try and stop and limit the amount of deaths and just kill the people that you have to, and so on. So that's the big setup in terms of like the next big sort of plot point is this raid that's obviously about to happen and how Kyoshi is going to approach it and so on. But before then, we have the actual training to get through and see what level Kyoshi is at going into the last stage of this book. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this chapter. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this one, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.